Okay, so all right, so we need to collect at least 100 cans of vegetables for the Thanksgiving blessing bags that they've been talking about collecting food for during your Bobcat time. How many we need at least 100 cans of vegetables. So how many cans would it be acceptable for us to collect? Write something down on your paper. How many cans would be acceptable for us to collect if we need at least 100 of them? So jot something down in that first part.
All you need is 100.
It says we need at least 100 cans.
At least means like track, right?
At least 100. So what does that mean to you? If I say we need at least 100 cans, what would be acceptable amounts of cans for us to collect? If we need at least 100 cans. How many cans could we collect and be like, yeah, we're good to go? How many do you think? What would be acceptable? How many cans would work? Give me an idea, guys. How many cans would work? John, how many cans would work if we need at least 100?
Anything above 100.
Anything above 100. So you're saying 100 cans would be okay?
Yes.
Yeah, 100 cans would be great. Is 101 cans okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, right? What about 102?
Yes. 103, yeah.
103.
Yes.
It's just going to keep going and going and going. So the types of problems that we're going to come across now, they're going to be different than the ones we were just solving that are saying, hey, we get x equals 3 hours and boom, we're good to go. We might have many possibilities for correct answers for the types of problems we're going to be exploring. So in order to help us do that, since we can go 100 or more, we're going to start exploring the idea of inequalities. Now again, I know maybe some of you in here have heard of these before. Maybe some of you have not. And that's okay. We're going to take it one step at a time. And I need to make this a little skinnier here. There we go. All right, so in order for us to start working with these inequalities and help us handle the situations where, hey, one number is just not enough, we can have multiple answers. How are we going to show that? We need some inequality symbols. Maybe you've seen them before, maybe you haven't. So what I want to do is just take some time to introduce you to them and what they mean. The first symbol looks kind of like an arrow pointing to the right. That is greater than. That is greater than. So in that first box on your sheet, we should be writing greater than. In that first box on your sheet, we should be writing greater than. We're going to need our symbols. The next symbol looks a whole lot like it, but now we put a line under it. It still means greater than. Still means greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. So when we put that line underneath, it could also be equal to. So we've got greater than or equal to. Now, when our symbol's pointing the other way, anybody want to take a guess at what that might mean? Sam, what might it mean? Less than. Yeah, less than. Less than or equal to. And then that last box, what happens if I take away that line underneath? What's that last symbol going to be for us? What do we think? What's that last symbol going to be? We took the line away. What happens when we take the line away? What's our pattern going up there? It's just a plain less than. It's just a plain less than. So if we go back up to our opening question and we see that our answers could be 100, 101, 102, our values for our cans could be 100 or more. The values for our cans could be greater than or equal to 100. So our cans, I'm going to put C for cans, could be greater than or equal to 100. Our number of cans could be greater than or equal to 100. So again, what we're going to be looking at in this unit are those types of situations where just one number isn't going to do it for us. One number is not going to do it for us. We're going to have lots and lots of options. So instead of having to write them all out like 100, 101, 102, 103, possibilities are endless there. We can use our inequalities to represent. We can use our inequalities to represent. So just so we get a little bit familiar with those symbols before we start in on graphing today, we talked at the beginning our first thing we're going to do is look at graphing inequalities, but before we do, let's just get a little bit more familiar with these symbols. I'm going to switch this around. I'm going to make this the you do, and I'm going to make this one the one we do together. Writing expressions is something we haven't done since our first unit, so it's a nice little refresher for us. So let's talk about what does it mean when I have the 2 right next to the x? It means to multiply. So what word do we like to use for multiply? What's our favorite? What's our favorite, Sam? Mult. What's a different way to say multiply or mult? Starts with a T. Times. We like to use times. So this would be 2 times x. Then what does that symbol mean? If we need to, we take a look up at our boxes. What do we think? Greater than or equal to? Less than or equal to? Less than or equal to? 2 times x is less than or equal to 4. So what I want you to do is just take a second and now try the U problem. Write an expression for that. I just want us to get used to the symbols a little bit, using the actual language for them, and then we're going to get into that graphing piece. Then we're going to get into that graphing piece. So jot down what you think. You're going to want to start with x. What do you think? Try this one out. Try this one out. What do we think? What do we think? X is what? What's the symbol going to mean? That's all we're looking for. What does the symbol mean? Just getting used to those symbols a little bit. All right, so what do we think, guys? What do we think? We're going to start with x, but then what's the correct symbol? Or the correct phrase for that symbol? X is what? What does it match? Nope. Nope. Nope, it matches less than. So x is less than 15. So what we have up in the boxes, those 4 boxes, you have the 4 symbols we're going to be using, and you have what each one means. So if you come across that symbol throughout this entire unit, we're going to have these symbols throughout the entire unit. So if you need to, refer back to this first page. So if you're stuck on something, refer back to this first page if you need to. Okay? All right, so let's take this idea and let's get to our objective for today. We want to be able to graph our inequalities. So we want to be able to show on a number line what are all the possible numbers that fit with our inequality. So we're just going to make it visual. So if we have x is less than 15, we're just going to make it visual on the number line. What are all the values that are less than 15? Now the reason we go the number line route is because if I go back up to the top and I say c is greater than or equal to 100, there's not just whole numbers that are greater than 100. We've got fractions and decimals we can throw in there too. So the number line just helps us include everything. So our first goal is we want to be able to take an inequality and we want to be able to graph it on the number line. But before we can do that, there's a couple key things we need to talk about. When we graph, we need to put a dot on our number line. And there's 2 different types of dots we use, or some people like to call them circles. So I'm going to put on here type of dot.
So write down what you write down?
Yep, write down what I'm writing down. So type of dot.
And put a question mark.
You can put a question mark. Or if you'd rather put circle instead of dot, I've heard it both ways. Maybe you've worked with these before and you're like, yeah, Miss Guy, I like the word circle better. Doesn't matter. There's 2 different types we're going to see. There's 2 different types. There is an open. There's an open one. It's just going to like an open circle. It looks kind of like an O. O for open. And we're going to use that if we have a greater than or a less than. We're going to use it if we have a greater than or a less than. So no equal to. No equal to. The other type of dot we have is closed. And it's just going to be a filled in circle. It looks more like a dot. Looks more like a dot. So we've got open if we have just a greater than or less than. So the closed is if we have the equal to. The closed is if we have the equal to, because we can include that number. We can include that number. That's why we close up that circle. It's equal to, so we can include that number. So we're going to put a dot on our graph, but then we have to figure out, hey, what numbers do we want to include? The numbers we want to include, we're going to shade. But we have to figure out what ones we want to shade. So I'm going to put shading above the next box. So which way?
For which one?
All right, so for shading, I'm not going to have us try to memorize which way we shade for which thing. I'm not going to memorize it. We're going to have a system for it so we can make sure we're right. Because sometimes our variables are going to be on the left side of the inequality. Sometimes they're going to be on the right side. I don't want us to have any fancy little shortcuts or tricks, because to me, those get goofed up in our brains. They do. They get goofed up in my brain. I want the method that, hey, this is going to help me get the right shading every time. So we're going to do what I call test a number. And we're going to do this today. We're going to test a number in our inequality. If it makes our inequality true, we're going to shade that side. So if we test a number, and we're going to do this today in all of our examples.
What do you mean by test number?
We're going to do this today in all of our examples, if you're not sure what that means. We're going to test a number. If that number makes our inequality true, we've got the winner, we're going to shade that side. If it makes our inequality false, we're going to shade the other side. So these two boxes are going to be our guide to getting our graph correct. They're going to be our guide. All right, so let's take a look at our first one. We have x, and let's use the language. X is less than or equal to 5. The more we say those symbols, even if it's not out loud, the better it's going to help us sink it in and lock it in. All right, so what we need to do first is we need to actually create our number line. The number that's part of our inequality, I'm going to put that at the middle of my number line. I'm going to put that number at the middle of my number line. And then, guys, I'm not going to make us put 20 different numbers on there. I just need one number to the right and one number to the left. That's all I'm going to ask. But you have to make sure those numbers that you pick are correct, though. 4 is smaller than 5, so it goes to its left. 6 is bigger than 5, so it's on the right. So if I ask you to make your number line for these, 3 numbers is all I need. What's the number that's part of the inequality? I just need one on each side. All right, so let's start with what type of dot? Are we going to have open or closed?
Closed.
We're going to be closed because we have the equal to. So if I go to my box, I find my less than or equal to symbol on the closed side. So I'm going to put a closed circle on that number 5. Now our second box says shading. I need to figure out which numbers we're going to shade. This says x is less than or equal to 5. What number could we put in for x? Let's use our number line. What number could we put in for x that makes sense?
4.
The 4 or the 6?
4.
What do we think? Which one's less than 5?
4.
Our 4 is. So 4 less than or equal to 5. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, if you're thinking, well, Miss Golly, I'm not real good. What if I forget? What if I think that sign really means greater than, and I don't think that's true? When I learned this, guys, my teacher made the inequality symbols into little alligators. And she told me, and this was a while ago, so I mean, I don't know if people still use it or not, but I'm going to because it helped me and I still remember it. I learned inequalities. It's been quite a few years, and I still remember the alligator thing. My teacher told me that the alligator is always hungry, so it wants to eat the bigger number. So, and she used to draw, and sometimes I still do it too. She used to draw little teeth. Alligator's hungry, it needs to eat the bigger number. 5 is bigger than 4. So this is true. So if it's true, we want to shade that side. No fancy tricks. We're just using the inequality itself. We're not trying to memorize, hey, if it points this way, shade this way, or if it's this. To me, that's too many things for me to get goofed up in my brain. I know 4 is less than or equal to 5. It makes my inequality true. I'm going to shade the side with 4. Let's try one more together. Then I want to give you guys a chance to try. All right, our second one, I'm going to go to x. is greater than negative 2. Now here's where we have to be careful. We have to make our number line. And every year, it's about a 50-50 in my classes who actually gets their number line right when it's negatives. I just need one number on each side. That's all I'm going to ask. But if I'm going to put a negative 1 and a negative 3, which side does the negative 1 go on? It goes to the right. So when we start going negative, we have to be careful when we create our number line. We have to be careful on that. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3. It goes 1, 2, 3, but it goes right to left. So be careful with that. All right, what type of circle are we working with? Open or closed?
Open.
Open. All right. Our gator eats the bigger number. What number can I put in here that's going to be greater than negative 2? I have negative 3 or negative 1. What do we want to put in? Negative 1. Negative 1 is greater than negative 2. We just made our gator happy, so we want to shade the side with that 1. So I don't want to try to shade this. I know I have people every year, they just try to guess which way to shade. I don't want us to guess, guys. Put a number in from your number line. If it makes your inequality true, shade it. If it doesn't, you've got the wrong side.
Can you draw arrows like for number for the negative 2? Can you like draw it to that side?
What? When you shade this, what's an arrow? You don't want to go with the line. You want to go up.
All right, so let's check this out. A couple of us are just finishing up our last one, so let's check it, make sure we've got it. So let's get our phones put back away. Let's go through these 2. All right, so double check with me.
What?
All right, so the first one, and again, it helps to just say it. X is less than negative 1. When I make my number line, a couple of you, when I walked around, you had your number line backwards. That's something we have to be careful of, and it's a big reason why I had you guys create your number lines. I want us to get used to what's that proper order on the number line. So then we have 0 should be on the right, negative 2 should be on the left. Now if you test a number, or if you think, oh, Miss Golly, I think it should be shaded to the left. Okay, so let's pick a number that's on the left. Let's pick negative 2. Is that going to make our gator happy? Is it going to get to eat the bigger number?
No.
Yeah, it does. Negative 2 is less than negative 1. Remember, when you're working with negatives, the further left we go, the smaller your number gets. 2 is bigger than 1. But now when we go to the negative side of our number line, negative 2 is smaller than negative 1. So we have to be careful of those negatives. We don't have an equal to, so we have an open circle. We're going to shade left. And then our second one, 12 in the middle. I'm not worried about us on the number line on this one because it's positives. Closed circle because we have the equal to. We've got a filled in dot. X is greater than or equal to 12. I think I'm going to shade on the right, so I'm going to test 13. 13 is greater than or equal to 12? Yes, it is. So I'm going to shade the side with 13. Okay?
Boom.
Shade the side with 13. All right. Let's go ahead. All right, let's go in the reverse. And then I want to give you guys some time to practice these. So what we have now is we have right and inequality to represent the graph. So now we're going to work the other way. Okay? So we have, let's put our variable, and I just like using x. You can use whatever variable you would like. If you want to mix it up, you can. I just like sticking with x. We're going to have an x. And what's our number going to be, guys? What's the number piece? -2. Our circle or our dot is on -2. So now we have to figure out, though, what symbol is going to go in there. So, test a number. Test a number. One of the numbers that's shaded. The first one I come across is -3. So -3 and -2. Is -3 less than -2? Or is it greater than -2?
Less than.
It's less than. -3 is smaller than -2. Our gator's extra hungry, wants the bigger number. So we're going to have that x is less than. We can test a number each time, whether we are doing the shading or whether we're given the shading. Now, do I need the equal to, or am I good with what I have?
I think we gotta put our L here about just in case.
What do we think? Do we need the equal to or not?
Just equal.
My circle's open, so do I need the line under? Do I need the equal to?
Just.
Nope. We're good.
It's hard to tell that circle's open from way back here.
Yep, that circle is open. I'm hoping you can see it on your papers, okay? All right, let's try one more together, and then I want to give you guys a chance to try a couple, and then we'll see if we're ready for some practice. All right, so we need our x. And then what's the number? What's our number we need?
1.
It's a 1. Now, I know for some of you, you've worked with these more before. You're like, oh, Miss Golly, I know what symbol to put in there right now. Awesome. If you've never really done this before, though, these symbols are kind of new for you, test your number. So anything that's shaded, I can test. So the first thing I see shaded is a 2. So I'm comparing 2 and 1. Is 2 greater than 1 or is 2 less than 1?
I think it's great.
It's greater. It's greater. So we want to put our symbol opening towards that side. If you need to put the symbol down below, you can too. We do have a filled in circle or closed dot, so we do need the equal to. We do need the equal to for that. Okay? What I want you to try is go ahead and try those bottom two underneath the U piece. Once you think you have them, raise your hand. Either Mr. Andrews or I will check them, and we'll move you on to the practice piece. Pages 2 and 3 in the packet is your practice for this.
Were you sick?